of Confronting the Past, Book 2. Chapter 3. There was little, Morgan decided, that she hated more than waking up with a vicious headache. The current one had expanded to stretch from the back of her head to down around her eyes thanks to recent events. She was already beginning to lose track of the number of times she'd woken up, but it couldn't have been more than 3 or 4. The pain got worse each time, though, and she was done. "You're awake?" She grimaced. The pain stabbed into her head, eliciting new throbs of protest. "Fortunately," she muttered. He always seemed to be there when she woke. "And how is your head feeling?" "I think you know the answer to that one," she told the voice, not bothering to open her eyes. You're probably right, but I want to hear it from you." Morgan scrunched her eyes more tightly shut and wished she could plug her ears. "If I told you that silence would make it feel a lot better, would that help?" she asked, then coughed, throat dry. It too made her head worse, while also jarring her injured shoulder. He laughed. "You know, I'm impressed by your ability to continue to crack jokes." She finally cracked open her eyes to blearily take in the man sitting cross-legged in front of her. He'd demand it soon enough anyway. "It's not a joke." He smiled. "Too bad. I quite enjoyed it." He stretched his arms. "Now, we've established your name." She flinched again. That had hurt. As had his insistence he confirm her line of employment. Morgan had no doubt he'd want more this time, although what use it was to him she couldn't quite see yet. Or at least she hadn't been able to sort it between the pain in her head and the spells of unconsciousness. It was probably extremely obvious. "So, Miss Campbell, let's move on. We have so much to discuss." "It's Agent Campbell," she muttered. He ignored her, but she knew it was one strike towards him losing his cool even so. She really needed to bite back the retorts. "I know the head of kin is Colin Lockholm, but the second in command keeps a remarkably low profile." The man wasn't wrong. Morgan knew it was Russell Darcy, but she'd only met Darcy once briefly at her graduation from training. While Colin was frequently around Oakbridge, most of the rest of the working agents weren't. Or any other agent names. Anyone to watch out for. Who might come for you? She squinted up at him and once again tugged at the ropes binding her hands. Now, Miss Campbell, none of that." Morgan stopped, but also ground her teeth together. "Stop calling me that." His eyebrows went up, and he leaned forward in clear anticipation. "Or what?" "I'm sure I could figure out how to strangle someone with my legs." Stupid, Morgan, stupid. But to her surprise, he laughed again. "Where do the jokes come from?" It was not a joke either. "Survival mechanism," she said. She would have shrugged, but she was lying on her good shoulder, and the other radiated constant pain. He smirked. "I'm not going to kill you, Miss..." He paused and cocked his head. "Morgan seems too personal." That's because it was. He already knew more about her, mostly her pain tolerance, than she was comfortable with. She was fairly certain he was the Malone that people in Greyspire talked about in hushed voices when they were willing to talk about the problems here at all. If this was Malone and not one of his people like Joe and Kev, then he was not only feared here, but also seemed to be making a move to take over the entire city and doing a damn good and bloody job of it. The other guilds in the city were either full-on crumbling or bending at his pressure. He wasn't at all afraid to kill to clear his path. Things in Greyspire were very bad, and Morgan had made a rookie mistake in wanting to find out just a bit more before leaving the city. "I don't know," she said, when his expression started to darken and she realized she'd gone a little too long not responding. "You seem to be all about the personal. You ask a lot of questions." He grinned. "I need to know things. Best to cut off potential threats before they fully materialize." Then something seemed to dawn on him. "Wait, did you not get as far as Joe and Kev think? Do you not know my name?" Morgan forced her expression to neutral. "You haven't exactly introduced yourself. However, I've gotten the impression you're the leader around here, which means you're Malone, but you could also be the one best at all this." She gestured with her head to indicate her situation. "I'm both." He gestured at himself. "Chris." He nodded at her. "Morgan." "Great. Now we've been introduced." With that, he reached out and hauled her upright with one arm. Morgan blinked, willing her vision to settle as the world spun for a moment. "You want me to call you Chris?" "If I'm going to call you Morgan, it's only fair." "Oh, because everything about this relationship reeks of fairness." He reached out and touched her lips with one finger. "Behave yourself. Now, I want some names." "Why?" She had to, even as she resisted the urge to bite the finger. His eyes hardened. "It's not your job to ask questions. It's your job to answer them." Chris smiled slowly and shrugged. "Or you could keep it up, but don't expect to eat any time soon." So now she'd hit the point where she'd pushed him to the edge of his tolerance. It hadn't taken long to be able to spot that. Her jaw clenched, and her stomach grumbled loudly at the mere mention of food. Her only real sense of time in the small windowless room came from the fact she was starving despite the pain in her body. They had yet to feed her. She wasn't sure if he was dangling this to make her behave, or if he actually meant she'd get food if she answered his questions. His smile grew, and he let the finger finally drop, gently patting her cheek instead. Then I need names. I don't know many besides Colin and the agents in my class, but we haven't done much yet, she said evasively. I'll get to those later. For now, I want those in charge. Anyone who's been in it since around the Battle of Oakbridge. She chewed at her lip, studying his face, trying to get some read off him. Now, Morgan. His hand, still on her cheek, started to pull back. She knew what that meant, and her brain raced. Even if Russell kept a lower profile, his name and involvement wasn't actually a secret. Chris, Malone, probably already knew it. Russell Darcy. Even as she said it, even with the logic, a part of her hated how easily she'd given in. But the pain the last few times had been too much. She needed time while conscious to figure out a way to escape. His hand froze. What did you say? He asked. Voice so quiet it sent an involuntary shiver down Morgan's spine. Russell Darcy? She whispered, automatically matching his volume. Russell Darcy, he repeated, and she nodded, eyes darting across his face to try and get some read. The name had obviously made him anything but happy, and she wanted to be ready if he acted on his displeasure. Then, to her astonishment, he laughed. Well, well, Russ is still alive, is he? And working for the monarchy, no less. Oh, I do love how small this world is. This is perfect. You know Russell? She asked, dumbfounded. He didn't answer, gaze focused somewhere past her. His hand did drift back to her cheek, but that boundless store of energy he always seemed to have vanished for the moment. He was never this still. Morgan waited, watching him nervously. Chris? She finally tried, because the silence and suspense was going to actually kill her. Was Russell's name going to give her a reprieve, or get her stabbed? She gave it even odds, despite his laughter. His eyes snapped back to hers, hand dropping to her already bruised shoulder. What? She swallowed hard. She didn't know what to say, but at least this version of Chris she was coming to predict. When she didn't continue, he frowned. How recently have you seen Russ? A while, she hedged. How long? He asked, gaze sharp. Year or so? Last summer? And where was he? Oakbridge. He was there for my class's graduation? He doesn't live there? No. Where does he live? I don't know. His fingers dug into tender skin, sending fresh pain ricocheting through her. Morgan gritted her teeth against the whimper that threatened to escape. Her fall from the ladder had left, at best, a bruise, and Chris continued to poke and prod, making it extremely tender. Where does he live? He asked again. I don't know, she repeated tightly, hoping he'd believe her. It was the truth. While many agents stayed based in Oakbridge out of sheer ease, almost as many maintained homes and often families outside the capital. After another moment of studying her, he let go and she sagged. How highly ranked is he? He's right behind Colin, as Kin's second. Chris's eyebrows shot up. He's the second in command of the entire King's Information Network. Morgan, despite the pain and circumstances, couldn't help a flash of annoyance. That was literally what she'd said. She bit back the temptation to point it out and nodded instead. How? What? How should I know? His hand shot out, catching her across the cheek and snapping her head to the side. Pain exploded through her head, and for a moment, black speckled her vision before she shook it away. Watch yourself. Then don't ask impossible questions, she ground out. Who's in charge here, Morgan Campbell? You or me? He asked calmly, which, in of itself, made the question 10 times more dangerous. There was only one answer, even if it tasted bad. You. Very good. He sat back and regarded her thoughtfully. Is there any chance that Russ will come after you? She frowned. I don't think so. I've only met him the one time. I doubt he even remembers me. Ah, yes, but there is the fact that Russell grew up here. I suspect, of everyone in kin, he knows this city the best. Freshly startled, Morgan said nothing. Colin had made it sound like they had no idea how Greyspire even worked. But if Russell had grown up here, surely he knew. Great! The only thing that could have made this better was ending up here because of bad communication between her bosses. Chris grinned, an off-kilter expression that never, ever seemed to mean anything good. Didn't know that. That doesn't surprise me, as I doubt he'd advertise it. He wasn't very happy when he left. She watched him, wondering if he was going to elaborate. Kin training had stressed that all information was good information. Instead, he levered himself to his feet. I'll send someone in with food later. Chris turned to leave, but paused, glancing over his shoulder at her. That grin back. Do you know why he wasn't happy? Obviously not. No? I killed his parents. Her eyes went wide, but honestly she didn't find herself too surprised. Chris was reportedly very willing to eliminate anyone in his way. Why? Because I didn't like them, he said simply, before waving and vanishing out the door, slamming it shut behind him. The noise hit her head like a hammer, and she grimaced, shutting her eyes and leaning back against the wall. That proved uncomfortable with her hands back there, and she shifted to try and get more comfortable with mixed results. She didn't dare try to lie down again, partially because she was hopeful of food sometime soon. She was best served by staying exactly where Chris left her. A few things were completely clear to Morgan now. First, she was in the hands of someone deeply unhinged, which meant his assertion he wouldn't kill her was meaningless. He'd happily murder her the moment it suited his plans. The way he acted, he might not even do it on purpose, which made it 10 times scarier. Second, while she assumed someone from kin would come, they'd have to get through Chris and his guild, and even a kin partner pair would be hard-pressed to do that. By the time they had enough information or gathered the means to act, Morgan could be long dead. So unless she rescued herself, all signs pointed to her funeral. She fidgeted with the ropes binding her hands and bit her lip hard as the skin along her wrists broke. It wasn't long before she could feel the blood slipping down her fingers to the ground behind her. Sighing, she closed her eyes and gave up for now. She'd try again after food.